It's almost an entirely new list this week, with only one title remaining from last week. And when it comes to what's number one, well, there's just really no art involved in that. Hello everybody, and welcome to another weekly countdown of the top 10 best-selling light novels in Japan. This covering December 3rd to the 9th of 2018. I'm Justus Stone, and I do this countdown every week on this channel. In fact, this channel is completely dedicated to light novels, news, reviews, even the light novel podcast is posted here as well. So if you love light novels, or maybe you're just starting to get interested in them, you should consider subscribing. So like I said at the outset, only one title manages to survive from last week's list, and well, honestly, it's not too shocking which title it is, seeing as how it's been number one for the past couple weeks. And well, I mean, this is kind of a countdown to number two because you all know what's going to be number one. I knew last week what was going to be number one, but well, I told you guys to guess how many copies it would sell, so you can see if your guess was right. At number 10, with 6,243 copies sold, Volume 5 of Isekai, Izakaya, Nobu, or Different World Tavern, Nobu. We have no English license for the light novels. Udon Entertainment has announced a license for the manga. There was a 24-episode anime series which aired April to September of 2018. Even though it had 24 episodes, the episodes were about half length. They were only about 14 minutes instead of the usual like 26 or so. This one, imagine there is a bar which serves a variety of food and drinks and makes you feel like you have been transferred to another world. The bar, which is called Nobu, is located in a back alley of the old capital. This is a small tale that revolves around this otherworldly bar. Now, it's kind of funny because this description, this synopsis, I just took it off of Novel Updates. It sounds like it's being told more from the point of view of the people living in the fantasy world, because the whole setup of this one is that this is an Izakaya, which is basically a bar with, you know, snacks and food and stuff that's meant to complement the drinks. And it has another entrance, which it's set in our world, obviously, the bar, because it serves our food and stuff. But it has like a back entrance or another room or whatever that has a permanent access to this, well, back alleyway in the old, you know, capital. So it basically is very much like Restaurant to Another World in that the story has fantasy world characters coming into a restaurant or bar of our world, and sort of the story that revolves around their experiences with the food and so forth. The last time this was on the list, somebody mentioned that it had a little bit more of a overarching story to it than Restaurant to Another World, which is pretty much just, you know, these vignettes basically of the patrons of the restaurant. This one, I guess, a little bit different in that case. It'll be interesting to see if maybe this does get licensed down the road, because Restaurant to Another World, very similar idea, also had an anime and has now been licensed for English release by 7 Seas. So who knows if this one keeps doing well, maybe we'll get another Restaurant to Another World type title in English. At number 9, with 6,568 copies sold, Volume 16 of Heavy Object. We do not have an English license for the light novels or the manga. There was a 24-episode anime, which is licensed in North America by Funimation. The anime covered Volume 3. Well, it's kind of interesting. Apparently Heavy Object is sort of the same idea, that it has these stories during this conflict that it covers. They aren't always necessarily connected to one another. So the anime, it sounds like, kind of cherry-picked from a couple of different places. So it covered up to like Volume 3. I think all of Volume 1 and 2 were done, and then it did like Volume 3, Chapter 3, and then the epilogue of Volume 3. So it kind of cherry-picked bits and pieces, it sounds like. In the future, the development of massive war machines called objects have rendered conventional warfare and even tactical nuclear weapons seemingly obsolete. As a consequence of this military upheaval, all of the nations of the world have fractured into 4 coalitions which constantly wage war on each other. The legitimate kingdom, focused on tradition, the capitalist corporation, which apparently in the anime was called the Capitalist Enterprise, which values profit, the Information Alliance, which in the anime was called the Intelligence Union, focused on knowledge, and the Faith Organization, which values religion above everything else. With the perception that only objects can destroy objects, modern warfare is reduced to duels between objects, resulting in shorter, cleaner, and safer wars. However, this all changes when 2 regular soldiers from the legitimate kingdom, Quenther Barbatage and Havia Winchell, use their smarts and ingenuity to destroy the Water Strider object of the Faith Organization all by themselves. Having proven that objects created by man can also be destroyed by man, Quenther and Havia are thrown into a new world of harrowing adventures and dangerous suicide missions, while together with Quenther befriending and saving the legitimate kingdom's elite Melinda Brontini of the object the Baby Magnum. Now, this is also written by the author of A Certain Magical Index, who is a very prolific author, writes a ton of different stuff. In any case, this one, as I said, we don't have the light novel for this, and this is actually a title that I keep requesting that we get, because, well, we just, darn it, need, like, some more, like, mecha-type warfare light novels. Yeah, that's what I think. More mecha. We need more mecha. That's what we need in our English light novel lives. At number 8, with 10,506 copies sold, Volume 29 of Kyoukaisenjou no Horizon, or Horizon in the Middle of Nowhere. Now, it says it's Volume 29, but technically it's Volume 11 Part C, if you want to really split hairs over it. There is no English license for these light novels. It did have 2 13-episode anime seasons, which aired in 2011 and 2012. Kyoukaisenjou no Horizon chronicles the story of a futuristic civilization returned to Earth after constant warfare hindered them from traveling beyond our post-apocalyptic world. At this stage, a small archipelago called the Divine States were the only hospitable land on Earth. In order to regain the spacefaring technology they had lost after many years of war, they decided to recreate history with a book called The Testament as a guide. It is the year 1648 in the Testament era. Toori Aoi, Chancellor and Student Council President of the only academy on the airborne city ship Musashi, faces the 10-year anniversary of the death of his childhood friend, Horizon Ariadust, in an accident. As he prepares to celebrate the occasion by proposing to P01S, an automaton who looks exactly like Horizon, he discovers that his suspicion about Z01's appearance actually has a basis in truth. P01S is in fact Horizon Ariadust, reborn into a robotic body. In addition to this, Horizon's emotions had been stripped away and are now stored in 8 powerful weapons called the Mortal Sin Armaments, which are now in the possession of key people in various established countries in the Divine States. To retrieve the emotions of Horizon Ariadust, Toori Aoi, along with his friends and allies, begins a crusade against different obstacles as key events in history are recreated in a futuristic manner. Now, this series is probably most famous for being massive, like massive, even though it's Part C, it's like Part C's like massive. Somebody actually posted a picture on Twitter. I should have, I don't know if I retweeted it or not, but they posted a picture of like a display table of light novels, and then you have like Horizon, which is like same number of copies, but stands about 4 times the height of just about any other light novel stack. It's just kind of funny. As much as I think this series sounds really cool, I can only imagine just how much time it would take to get through each individual volume or part. And honestly, I don't see anybody licensing this because of just how massive it is. The only way I see this getting licensed is if it's released as an ebook. That's the only thing that I can think. other than J-Novel Club, I can't think of any company that would release a title as just an ebook that would have like the clout to get this title licensed. So it's really up to J-Novel Club or nobody. That's what I think. But I don't know if Sam really wants to sign up for this. Because my god, not only is it long, but can you imagine how long it would take to translate even just a single volume? Wow. Yeah, so I don't know if we'll ever see this one in English. But it's kind of too bad because, yeah, it just sounds kind of cool. At number 7, with 11,187 copies sold, Volume 3 of Bleach, Can't Fear Your Own World. We have no English license for this light novel series. The manga is released by Viz, and they released the final volume of the manga series, which was volume 74, back in October of this year. A 366 episode anime based on the manga. You can watch that when that's available on Crunchyroll. From the manga's creator and the author of Bakano and Durarara, Narita's novel centers on Shuhei Hisagi. Shuhei must throw himself into a new fight as the mystery that Kaname Tosen left behind resurfaces. The story reveals more details about the 4 noble families, the Soul King, Arrancar, and Fullbringers. So it's kind of fleshing things out, I guess, and I guess it's Narita is writing the book, but with notes and information, and I guess some story ideas from the actual mangaka of Bleach. This series has been doing really well, actually. This is the 3rd volume, and all 3 have appeared in the top 10, and actually, if I recall, the 1st volume spent quite a while on the top 10, several weeks actually. So just goes to show you, even though Bleach is pretty much long over in Japan, there's still people wanting more of it. At number 6, with 11,472 copies sold, the only survivor from last week, Volume 13 of Yahari Ore no Seishun Love Comedy wa Machigateru. Or, as we have it in English, My Youth Romantic Comedy is Wrong as I Expected. This one we do have licensed for English release, which is by Yen On. They're going to be releasing Volume 7 in February of 2019. There was also a 26-episode anime which covered Volumes 1 to 11. And this volume, number 13, is the second last volume of the series. Volume 14 has been confirmed to be the end of the series. Hachiman Hikigaya is a cynic. Youth is a crock, he believes, a sucker's game, an illusion woven from failure and hypocrisy. But when he turns in an essay for a school assignment espousing this view, he's sentenced to work in the Service Club, an organization dedicated to helping students with problems in their lives. How will Hachiman the cynic cope with a job that requires optimism? Really good series, actually a really excellent series. Pretty much I'd say that it's Hachiman himself who really sells it. A very unique character in the light novel catalog, and so much so that he throws out like just so many references to like pop culture, literature, music, and everything else that they actually have a glossary at the back of the English translations of these books just so you can know all of the different things that he's referencing. It's a really good series that I've enjoyed. I have fallen behind, but I do have Volume 4 on my shelf, and I'm hoping to rectify my having fallen behind in the new year. At number 5, with 11,715 copies sold, Volume 20 of Hataraku Mao-sama. Or, as we have it in English, The Devil is a Part-Timer. This one is licensed for English release by Yen On. They just released Volume 12, which, wow, that's a drag. I've fallen 2 volumes behind now. And this is actually one of my favorite series, too. There was a 13-episode anime which aired April to June in 2013. Only covered the first 2 volumes. And we've also done a light novel podcast on this one, so if you want to get some even more in-depth thoughts on the first couple of volumes and our thoughts and listen to how much we enjoy it, you can check that one out. Maybe I'll leave a link or something up above me. In the world of Ente Isla, the demon lord Satan has attempted to conquer humanity using an enormous army of demons. But when he almost succeeds, mankind's champion, hero Emilia, thwarts his plans, forcing him to retreat into a portal that leads to a world unbeknownst to him, Earth. Along with his faithful servant, Alciel, Satan stumbles upon the modern-day city of Tokyo without any knowledge of the world itself. Completely out of their depth, they gain some information from a police officer, but Satan still has one more problem: money. In order to survive with his greatly diminished powers, he guises himself as a human named Sadao Mao, lives in an apartment, and becomes a part-timer at the fast food restaurant McDonald's. Determined not only to conquer Anti-Isla but also Earth, Sadao strives to become a full-time employee in his job, as he believes that it would be a step forward in his conquests. Things begin looking up for the once all-powerful demon as he ventures through his everyday life, his job, his home, and his relationships. However, a major setback pops up when Emilia, the hero who drove him out of Anti-Isla, suddenly appears. I really enjoy this series. It is a great mix of fantasy, action, comedy, slice of life. It has a fantastic cast of characters. Yeah, it's just, you know what, for just a really all-around kind of package, it's probably one of my top light novels that, in terms of just a regular read, that I definitely want to make sure I keep up with and that I always find enjoyment in every new volume. At number 4, with 13,184 copies sold, Idolish 7, Remember. This one started life as a video game in Japan, but it's since spawned anime, manga, light novels, albums, the whole 9 yards. This particular story seems to focus on the background of the idol group Reveal. The game's plot, the overall Idolish 7 plot, is the player assumes the role of Tsumugi Takanashi, an inexperienced manager for a new idol group under her father's small agency. The idol group is named Idolish 7 and consists of 7 male singers, each with their own unique personality and background. She must train and turn all of them into the famous idols, all the while struggling against the hardships of the entertainment industry. I know pretty much zero about this series. I had to pretty much look up all of that. So if you're familiar with the Idolish 7 series or line of products, maybe this will mean a lot more to you when I say, yeah, it is apparently this is like a background. It looks like there was a manga called this exact same thing. So I'm wondering if this light novel is an adaptation of the manga. I'm not too sure. There wasn't a lot of information that I could find on this specific volume. At number 3, with 21,156 copies sold, Volume 10 of Haikyuu, Shosetsu Bon. This is actually a light novel adaptation of the series Haikyuu, which is written by Kyoko Hoshi. We do have the manga, published in English by Viz. As far as I know, the light novels are basically just a pure retelling. They're not like new material. I'm sure they probably have some new material in them, but essentially the story is identical to what we see in the manga. At least that's my understanding. There is a 60-episode anime, which is licensed in North America by Sentai Filmworks. Junior high school student Shoyo Hinata gains a sudden love of volleyball after seeing a national championship match on TV. Although short in height, he becomes determined to follow in the footsteps of a star player nicknamed the Little Giant after seeing his plays. However, his dreams are destroyed in his first official match, where his team suffers a crushing defeat against the junior championship favorite team, which includes the so-called King of the Court, Tobio Kagayama. Hinata vows to follow in the footsteps of the Little Giant and enters Kurasuno High School to defeat Kagayama, only for the two to wind up as unlikely teammates. By combining the genius-like qualities of Kagayama with Hinata's sheer athleticism, the duo create a brand new volleyball tactic. Their new combo allows them to get over their differences and creates a strange alliance between the two, filled with fun and laughter for them and their teammates. Thus begins the Karasuno Boys volleyball team's journey to the top. So again, another series that I'm not really familiar with, mainly because I'll be honest, I don't watch a lot of sports anime, so I never really got into this one. What are your thoughts, if any of you watched it? Is it worth checking out even if you're not a fan of sports type anime? At number 2, with 23,321 copies sold, Volume 9 of Sword Art Online Alternative Gale Online. This one licensed for English release by Yen On. They're going to be releasing Volume 3 in February of 2019. This series is actually written by Keiichi Sigsawa, who wrote Kino's Journey. There is a 12-episode anime which streamed on Crunchyroll and covered the first 3 volumes of the light novel series. A brand new battlefield awaits. Karen Kohiru Imaki is a college student who stands at an imposing 6 feet. While her complex about her height makes it hard for her to make friends in the real world, the VR MMO Gale Online changes everything. Now equipped with her ideal mini avatar and clad in a pink battlesuit, Karen is ready to shoot up the world of GGO as Len. Before long, she meets the beautiful Pito Hui, and the 2 rare female players become fast friends. Little does Len know that this friendship is the key to her entry in the first ever Squad Jam, a team-based battle royale that echoes the famous Bullet of Bullets tournament. Now, this is kind of a funny series, really, because it seems like if you look at the subtitles on a lot of these books, the arcs are all basically this whole, the battle royale, the Squad Jam. It's just a new Squad Jam pretty much every time. Some of them last for 2 volumes, some are only 1 volume. Really, I mean, Sigsawa is a huge gun nut. This is what we end up finding out and reading in the afterword of the first volume. And that, in fact, he actually was a consultant, a producer on the Gale Online anime for Sword Art Online because they went to him to get like the gun mechanics right and how people would actually stand and use weapons and stuff like that. So I read the first volume of this one and it really just comes through loud and clear that this is just Sigsawa having a lot of fun writing about stuff that he's passionate about, which is guns. It's a fun series. I mean, there's definitely lots of action and everything else. I mean, that is the main focus of it. But it didn't strike me from the first volume that there was like a really huge storyline to it. I'm not too sure whether that holds true for the entirety of the series. Again, like most people, I guess, are probably more aware of up to volume 3 because that's what the anime covered, and I guess volumes 2 and 3 have a bit more story to them. But again, I don't know where the series goes from there. Finally, at number 1 with 76,665 copies sold, Volume 21 of Sword Art Online. This one, of course, the first new entry in the Sword Art Online series, the main series, since back in September of 2017. Now, kind of an interesting story behind this because if you're not familiar with Sword Art Online's backstory, basically Riki Kawahara wrote Sword Art Online as a web novel. And pretty much all the material that we had up to volume 20 was previously published as a web novel and had been finished for a number of years. This volume, number 21, is the first brand new Sword Art material that Riki Kawahara has written for the main series in, well, almost 10 years, I think. I think the last thing I heard was that Alicization was finished in 2008 on the web novel. Now, he has done some editing and stuff as he's published them, but really, like the bulk of the story itself has been written for almost a decade. Now, Riki Kawahara, if you read his newer stuff, especially like Sword Art Online Progressive, Excel World, even The Isolator, a lot of people will tell you that Kawahara has become a far better writer. So I'm kind of excited now that we've got this because this is sort of like the first, in the main series of Sword Art Online, this is the first stuff that we're getting with modern Riki Kawahara, professional writer Riki Kawahara at the helm creating an original story. So, it's going to be really interesting to see how people react to this one as more volumes come out, especially once we start getting it in English. Of course, the series is licensed in English by Yen On. They released volume 15 December 18th, which I guess is actually today if you're watching this the day that it's released. So volume 15. Right now the anime is currently covering the Alicization arc. They're at about volume, I think, around 11 or 12 right now, I think is the last thing I saw there. So they're in that kind of area. So we're actually still ahead light novel wise. And again, like I said, this is volume 21 has been over a year, people waiting to see what this new storyline of Sword Art Online is going to be. I saw a little bit. It sounds like really this new storyline is going to be about all of the different seed VR MMOs. It sounds like they're starting to like collapse into each other and mix worlds and meld worlds, and I don't know, it sounds kind of cool. Like the setup of it sounds pretty neat. I don't know if I need to tell any of you what Sword Art Online is about. I mean, it starts off with our characters being trapped in a game where they either beat the game, or if they die in the game, they die in real life. But that's really only the first volume. After that, there's a number of adventures they go on that all involve different virtual realities and, you know, discovering like whether people are, you know, controlling games in weird ways. And anyway, it's I don't know. If you're watching these videos, chances are you have at least a rough idea of what Sword Art Online is about, because it's just that prolific. This week I want to say a special thanks to Mirage GSM, Philip Voselberg, and Jean-Luc Chartier for their support on Patreon, as well as the support of all my patrons who allow me to keep buying books to review on this channel, pay for additional hosting for the Light Novel podcast, and to help pay off the debts of my upgraded equipment. So those are your top 10 light novels in Japan for December 3rd to the 9th of 2018. I'm thinking Sword Art's still going to be #1 next week, but I guess we'll see how many other titles manage to stay on the list when I return next week. Until then, thanks for joining me in this video. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.